Thank you guys for tuning in to Not Very Radio. My name is Kyle, and today we are going over the honorable mentions of 2025. That's right, I guess you would consider that the number 11 to number however many I'm going back to 16, 20. You'll know I didn't count. I just wanted to talk about some more albums. I thought there was a lot of really great ones this past year. And here we go. So first things first, let's talk about this tropical freak storm album, Fairyland Codex. The people, the band, they're back. I loved their debut. I thought their sophomore album was great. I wasn't as huge on their one before this current one. I think it was called Deep State or something like that. I felt like it brought the chaos that they typically bring in their songwriting, but I felt the chaos was a little less focused, which made the songs just feel a little less interesting. And yeah, but this album, they really bring it back. They really come in with these really tight, uniquely structured songs that are really interesting. And yeah, just that psychedelic, punk, disgusting sound that they have is back. And most importantly, they brought back the creepy little Muppet things that are on the front album cover that they had on their debut. Check this album out if you're into some weird psychedelic punk, whatever you want to call it. It's really great. Next album I want to talk about is this Lucy Dacus album, Forever Is a Feeling. I loved this album when it first came out. It did shrink on me a little bit as time went on, but I thought it was really great. I haven't been crazy impressed with a lot of her previous work, but I know a lot of other people have, so I was hoping that this album would kind of bring me into the, Dacus fan base or whatever you want to call it. And it did. It did. I think this album is amazing. I think it's a really beautiful, indie rock, indie pop kind of record. With so many sweet, sentimental songs about love and love of the sorts. I think her vocals are great. This is, yeah. Maybe I should have talked about this album being on my underrated album list, now that I'm thinking about it, because I personally thought this album was fantastic. Absolutely worth listening to if you're into that kind of indie rock, folky pop kind of vibe. Check it out, please. Next album I want to talk about, it's almost not even worth talking about. At this point, it's oh look, Tyler the Creator released another banger album. Who would have guessed? Everybody would have guessed. Tyler the Creator, Don't Tap the Glass. Yeah, a really cool dancey rap kind of vibe, and it's so much fun. This one just kind of I just want to dance. I did the thought-provoking stuff. And I just kind of want to vibe right now. And that's exactly what this is. You could turn this on and just rock out to it the whole time. It's great. Geese getting killed. If you are not on the internet at all, you won't have heard of them by now. But if you are, at this point you should have listened to them. Are you on TikTok? Are you on the internet? Are you going, hey internet, what's happening with music nowadays? Because they will say Geese is happening with music nowadays. And they made an absolute fantastic record. One that I was surprised about in terms of the direction they went. I figured they would have gotten louder and more rambunctious, but they almost pulled back. And you really have to sit there and listen and realize how complex and interesting a lot of the instrumentation is. And not to mention Cameron Winter's, vocals. One of the reasons why I love this band so much, at least in my opinion, maybe boring people don't, but in my mind, this is something that you can put on, and it's interesting enough for people who really, are into music and want to hear something different and interesting, while still, feeling accessible enough that, you feel like if you played it around, maybe, your family members or friends who aren't into, some of the weirder stuff that, at least I listen to, they're not going to be like, what the heck is this? They're going to be like, oh, this is pretty, in my opinion, they should be like, this is pretty cool. This is some really great rock. Next one I want to talk about is Danny Brown's album, Stardust. Danny Brown album, Stardust. I did a reaction to this one. Actually, I did a reaction to the last two or three I talked about. Nonetheless, I loved this album. I love that he brought in all of these more, and I don't know the age of all of them, but I presume that they're all pretty young artists from what I know at least. And I love that he's embracing that. I actually saw him in concert not too long ago with Underscores and Fentanyl. And just watching him perform and seeing all the different songs that he played, because he did the song he did with Jane Remover as well. I think he did the song that he did with Frost Children that's not on the album. Even in the concert, he's like, I'm 40 something, I'm grateful, but I'm thinking like, man, this guy's like 40 something, and he could be sitting there going, I worked my butt off all these years to get where I am. And by the time I'm 40, these young guys gotta catch up or do whatever. But instead, he's holding the torch for them. He's got his ear on the pulse, and I feel like the artist is going to be good if you find a Danny Brown feature. Listen to Danny Brown and look at what songs he's featured on, and you will find so many great, amazing new artists. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I love that he's encouraging music to be pushed forward, and I think he really did that with this album. All of them are so great and unique and fun, but at the same time, it has a lot of really interesting conversation about his personal life and him getting sober and stuff like that. I think this album's really great. Whew, I gotta learn to take a breath, man. I am yapping. Next, I want to talk about this Infinity Knives and Brian Eno's record. This album is probably the most subversive rap album I've heard this year, which is saying something, speaking that I just talked about the Danny Brown album. But the third song in this track list is more of a post-rock song, if anything, than like a rap, hip-hop, anything of the sorts song. I don't even think there's any rap in it, if I remember correctly. And he goes from like making these huge political statements to, talking about how much he loves his girl and her flippity flop feet. And then like in the next song or something talking about like, hey man, don't kill yourself, we love you. It really gives you whiplash, but in the best way possible. Incredibly creative, incredibly well done. Did I say the album name of that? That was Infinity Knives and Brian Eno's A City Drowned in God's Black Tears. Last one I'll talk about, and I was debating on talking about it, but I think it's really cool and really unique, and that's the Ethel Cain Perverts album. I don't know. There's just something about this one. It doesn't feel... I'm not huge into drones, so I don't have a ton of depth and knowledge on it. But I don't know. It's got a nice vibe, and there's some really cool, like, actual, like, song-ish, if that's what you... Not to say that drone isn't, but I know what people are thinking, and I'm coming here to validate your feelings, I guess. I don't know. Like, more song-ish instrumental vocal parts throughout this that are absolutely beautiful. It's... I don't think it's an EP. I'm not here to stand in someone's creative way. It's an hour and a half. So I don't know if it can be called an EP. I don't know if you could just call it an EP because it is. But you know what? We can do whatever we want nowadays. Who am I kidding? I'm wrong. Let's just throw out the dictionary. There you have it. There's probably my honorable mentions, my 11 through however many I covered there. There's so many other great albums that I didn't get to talk about. And honestly, I probably didn't spend as much time listening to as I should have. I mean, I loved Sometimes I Might Be Introvert by Little Simz, but I just couldn't get back into Lotus enough. The album that she released this past year being 2025, Lotus, Little Simz. It had trouble forming that sentence. But yeah, I just didn't get the time to really go back and listen more. And frankly, if I did, that one might have been in my, honorable mentions list, maybe even top 10. Same with Alfredo 2 by Freddie Gibbs and The Alchemist. Same with Vanisher Horizon Scraper by Quedeca. There was so much great music this past year, and it was hard for me to keep up. But yeah, I gave a couple little extra honorable mentions, I guess, there at the end. I hope you guys have listened to these albums, and if you like them, let me know what you think. And I do have a top 10 video coming out. Yeah, after this, there should be the top 10 video going up. Then there will probably be the Black Country New Road podcast, the current podcast that we're going to be doing for albums of the year, and then somewhere in there, I don't know exactly when, but I want to do a video on like my just favorite albums of all time personally. Comment. Love you, mean it. See you, bye. Geese.